who were you closest to growing up, your father or your mother?
My mother.
I'm sorry?
My mother.
And why was that?
We used to joke. The initial version of this book was called what was it called? Separated at birth, connected
Yes,
at birth.
separated at birth, something like that.
My mom writes about it in the book. You know, she lost her mom young, and there were not a lot of female relatives around us. So it was really me and my mom a lot of the time. I have an older brother. He's wonderful, but he's skipped a grade. He was off in college. He had moved to Baltimore by the time I was a teenager. So I just spent a lot more time with my mom. My mom was home writing when she was home. And we were very close from the beginning. And again, a big point of the book was to talk about how you can love someone and be very close, but get into this habit of fighting with them.
Yeah. And Leslie, were you closer to your mother or your father growing up?
My mother. My mother.
And why not your father?
Well, my father was off doing his own thing. He was not as involved. And my mother was, my mother was a social activist, and she was very busy trying to make the world a better place. And I was very close to her.
And did you become like your mother?
I didn't want to become like my mother. My mother was a freedom rider. She was not afraid. She was not afraid. And I just wanted to be a famous author. That's all. I didn't want to be involved in social issues because I was fearful.
So why did you become like her if you didn't want to?
Well, this is where we talk about generations. We talk about generational, what you are, what's in your soul, what you come from. So my mother wanted to help people, for me to end up helping people, helping women in prison. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's part of my writing plays for inner city kids in New York where they'd never even seen a white person. It was just part of what I was doing in the 80s and 90s. And then Lindsey didn't want to be like her mother either, I don't think. And you've turned out to be, right down the line, the same kind of work.
Yeah.
And so, Lindsey, you didn't want to become like your mother?
No.
And why not?
I thought she, how do I answer this question safely? No, why didn't I want to become her? I just thought, well, I don't want to be a writer, and I don't want to do, she was always doing things, gardening and cooking and making things beautiful. And, I was like a goth club kid. We couldn't have been more different. So it was more about not that I didn't respect who she was and what she was doing. It was more like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
But as I got older, I started doing things that I really thought would get her approval. And the more I started doing those things, the more I started to like them. And I had exactly the same experience. I did not think being a social activist was going to be in my future. But when I was getting sober, there was a guy, he was a former Marine. He has an organization on the East Coast, recovery. And he would bring me in, and he would bring me in to speak in 6 prisons in 2 days. And he taught me how to be a recovery advocate. And who knew that I would have that same experience of feeling kind of like, oh, I'm in my place. I know it sounds crazy, but I taught at Homeboy Industries last year for 10 months. And when I walked in, they were like, we don't know how this is going to go. And when I left, it was like hugs all around.
Yeah.
I mean,
and they called me Mama.
I brought my mom. You should see the pictures. They
Oh,
hugged
yeah.
her.
Amazing. And so, Lindsey, what is it like being your mother now rather than being you? What is that like?
Well, I think the good news is I followed a path that allowed me to flourish. I think left to my own devices, who knows what would have happened. I think she really did create a model, a role model, that I wanted to follow. And you know what? It feels great. I love it. I love that we wrote a book together.
Who is Lindsey?
Oh,
Who is Lindsey? Wow.
She's my better half. She's, my mom was good. I was okay, but she's awesome.
Well,
Well, I would
let me
say
see.
this.
I want to hear from Lindsey. Who is Lindsey?
Lindsey is a reformed wild child who has really found herself being of service to the world in meaningful ways. You know, Lindsey is somebody that really needs to give back and focus on doing things that are really good for humankind. You know, yeah.
No, go ahead. You what?
No, I would say, you know, our music tastes are different, our clothing tastes are different. I think I certainly have my own style and way of being in the world. So I don't think it's an exact copy.
And who is Leslie? Who are
Oh,
you, Leslie? Tell me who are you?
I lost myself when I lost my daughter. So, and I think this happens to a lot of moms who have lost their children to violence or addiction or any kind of loss. When you lose your child, you know, your joy in life, whatever it is that you loved. And I loved cooking, I loved gardening, I loved playing music, you know, I play the piano. When I lost my daughter and she left me, she went off to find herself. She left, you know, where I lived, and I didn't speak to her for 4 years. She didn't speak to me. And what you're asking is, who is Leslie? I had to discover who I am.
And so,
Without my daughter,
and
without
who
my daughter.
are you? Who
Well,
is Leslie?
I'm very creative. I'm very creative and I'm very driven to figure things out. I'm very curious and I want to, you know, try and figure things out. I want to help people. And I love writing and I'm never going to stop writing no matter how old I get. So I think that writing this book with my daughter gave us an opportunity to go back into the past all the way 100 years back and talk about how women develop over the ages from their mothers and their grandmothers, and how do they become who they are? Because I'm like my mother in many ways, but completely different from her in other ways. So
So you told me what you do, but you didn't tell me who you are.
wow, I'm a mother.
You still tell me what you do.
Well, Jesse, you're asking me a hard question. What
Let,
am I? What am I? I'm a female. I identify as a female.
and
What
Leslie,
am I mean, I think of myself as a good person. I mean, I don't even know how to answer that question.
you say you think of yourself as a good person?
Yes.
And what's good about you?
I think my desire to help other people and to be of service is what makes me a good person.
And how does that make you a good person?
Well, I'm not only thinking about myself, I'm thinking about others. I'm thinking about how I can be helpful. And I think kindness is very important. And I try to be a role model for the people around me, both in Rotary and in my community.
And I'd add
Leslie,
something.
you didn't tell me who you were. You told me who you are. You didn't tell me you told me what you do. You didn't tell me who you are. Who are you?
Don't put us on the spot or anything.
Yeah. This is
What do you mean?
I think I'm a loving, compassionate person. I think that is absolutely true.
So
And
so
yeah.
you think you are a lover, or that's what you do?
No, I think I am.
And what's loving and compassion? What's loving and compassion about you?
I think I'm a great friend, and I've been in recent years a good daughter. Um, I think that my creativity and you know, my feelings about recovery. I mean, when I think about, if somebody said, "Who are you?" I would be like, I'm a sober woman, you know, living a dignified life today. And what does that include? It includes living true to myself, being really clear about my recovery, because, you know, who am I? I'm also a recovering alcoholic. And
Amazing.
that's a very, yeah.
And so you say you are a loving woman. Where do you get the love from to be loving?
Oh, I think that comes from mom.
And where does she get her love from to be loving?
I think that comes from her mom. And I would
Really?
also say she said that her mom was fearless. She's fearless too. And I think I can be pretty fearless as well.
Amazing. And so,
And I would say, I would add this, whether it's what we do or who we are, she got it from her mom. I got it from her. We're ambitious. We want to change the world and we want to be connected to other people while we're doing it.
and
So we care.
you want to change the world from what to what?
Oh, we just want people to be kinder, more compassionate. We'd like to see some changes in the criminal justice system. We'd like to see some laws around people in recovery and people who have been incarcerated have a better time. So a big part of my business is I'm teaching now at a New Way of Life. I work with women who have been in jail, some for 40 years, and they're coming out and they haven't seen a phone, much less been inside a Costco.
That's amazing.
So,
I know
yeah,
I'm working with a guy that he been in prison for a long time. He just got out recently, and he had never seen a cell phone. He doesn't even know
yeah,
how to use the cell. I'm like, what? And he black. He black.
yeah,
And he's
Yeah.
like, he didn't know how to use the cell phone.
yeah.
That's amazing. So let me
Yeah.
ask. I'll ask Leslie first. Leslie, did you forgive your mother for turning you away from your father?
My mother,
Yeah, did you forgive your mother for turning you away from your father?
she didn't turn me away from my father.
What turned you away from your father?
I never turned away from my father. I
You-
was always very close to my father his whole life.
And would he help you deal with your mother as you were growing up?
No. But this is what I would say about men in those days. My father did not raise me to be an independent working woman. He raised me to get married and have a good family. And so I did not, I was rebellious in the sense that I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to, manage my own life. And I think he was very old school in that sense. And every time I wrote something or did something new, he said, we have to stop this right now. But
Amazing. And Leslie, did you forgive your mother for turning you away from your father?
give everybody, you,
Hold
Lindsay,
on.
sorry, you.
Me.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
talking about
yeah,
Lindsay.
of course. And I don't,
You forgave your mother for turning you away from your father?
I don't think she really turned me away from him. I don't think it was that clear cut. I think we did have a tumultuous family situation. But my father and I have reconciled on our own over the years. I mean, my issues with my dad, and I love my
But
dad
let me
today.
ask you this first, and I do want to get to the father. When you
Yeah.
were growing up and your mother would impose her will on you as a kid, and you would ask your father to help you deal with that, would he come in and help you deal with it?
God, I don't remember.
You don't
I
remember?
honestly
You don't
don't
remember if he
remember.
did or if you asked?
I don't remember if I asked
Why not?
because I used a lot of drugs.
I know, but
And
before you became a drug addict, you were angry at your mother and you tried to escape. But when you were asking your father to help you deal with the hell in your mother, would he help you?
yeah, I think he tried. I think he tried to do his best.
By
Sure.
doing what? For those other people, by doing what? How would he help you deal with the mother?
I guess like trying to talk to both of us, but I wouldn't want to get between us if I were somebody. So I
What do
think
you
there
mean
were
by that? What do you mean?
we're both big, powerful personalities when we want to be. I wouldn't really want to get caught between us.
Uh, so you don't think your father could have handled it?
No.
What? But the role of the father is to stand between the mother and the children so that the mother doesn't recreate the children her image.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
he missed that class.
Have you forgiven him for that?
Of course.
You told him?
I've forgiven him for everything. We did some therapy together.
And did you
when I
tell
was,
him I forgive you for not protecting me from my mother?
I told him I forgave him for the things that went on between us when I was growing up.
Do you have anger?
No,
You have no anger now?
no.
How did you overcome it?
Therapy, 12-step programs, time, healing, prayer.
So you forgave your mother?
Oh, of course.
And Leslie, do you have anger, Leslie?
No,
You forgave your mother?
I've forgiven everybody. Yes.
And did you tell your mother?
Well, my mother died and I wasn't able to, she was in a cancer hospital for 2 years and I was with her every single day. And I sang with her and I prayed with her and, but no, we did not have those deep conversations, unfortunately. She was unable to talk to me.
But Lindsey, you had that with both parents?
Yes.
And how are things with you and your father now?
And sorry?
How is you and your father relationship?
It's great. It's great.
Nice.
Because part of recovery is accepting people for who they are.
Yep.
And listen, my dad grew up in Houston, Texas in the 40s and 50s. It was a different time. He was from a different generation. They did not teach you to be warm and fuzzy in those days if you were, a man.
Those were the good old days.
Oh, I don't know about that, but yeah, it was certainly a different time.
It was an amazing time.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Give me the shirt. Come on. I ain't the children of the lot. Let's go. Come on. One shirt.
Jesse! Jesse!
What in the world going on out here?
All these people are here for the merch, but we're sold out.
They're here for the merch?
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's amazing. The merch is amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
So both of you never get angry at all now.
No, we get angry all the time. But the whole point of the book is to learn about what to do when you're angry. Like, we're still going to trigger each other. Money, what we're wearing, food. We're not going to fight about what we're going to say in the interview. We're going to get in an argument before the interview because she wants me to wear pink and she's wearing blue. And now we're in an argument because we look like Easter eggs and I don't want to look like Easter eggs. But we have tools. So we look at each other and say, hey, let's take a step back. Let's talk about this later. There are definitely moments when we're working and things get heated. And I say, let's take a break. And we both know,
Why don't you overcome anger, period? So no situation, no matter what, you can never get angry if you don't have the spirit of anger inside of you. Why not let it all go, period?
I'm trying. I'm chanting for it.
But chanting's not going to do it.
What's going to do it?
I'll tell you that in a minute. Good question.
Okay.
Leslie, why don't you overcome the spirit of anger so nothing on earth can ever make you angry, no situation at all, because the spirit of anger is evil and it separates you from God. Why not overcome the spirit of anger completely?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that because generally speaking, if I'm left to my own devices, I really do not have any anger. But there is societal anger that I had. There are things that are happening in the world that make me upset. So I think anger and aggression are evil, but I don't think they're in me.
But
I do.
But if you get angry, the anger is inside of you. It's not out there. It's inside of you. And you're overreacting to the situation, to the world. Why not get rid of the spirit of anger and have a clear mind?
Well, do you feel that you have gotten rid of all anger?
100%. In 30-something years, I never experienced anger.
Wow. Wow.
Amazing.
Well,
Is that faith? Is that faith-based?
yeah, it's
I
faith-based.
don't know what that means.
Oh,
Yeah.
like, do you have a very strong belief in God? And
No, well, what happened was my I still go to church, but go to church, I would pray to the Lord, I would give tithes and offerings, do what the preachers say, but the anger, the spirit of anger was never taken away from me. So I finally, long story short, I finally asked God, I'm doing everything they saying to do in the church, but I still have the spirit of anger. I asked him to let me see, why is it that I still feel I'm emotional? You know, I have all these thoughts and up and down emotions, feel good, feel bad, right? And he allowed me to see I resented my mother who tried to turn me away from my father, because mothers are jealous of kids and father's relationship. All mothers, there's not one that's not. And so they secretly turn the children away from the father. And when they turn the children away from the father, they recreate them in her image, which is evil. But they can't help it because they have not forgiven their mothers. And so when I realized that my mother had tried to turn me away from my father, I forgave her. She couldn't help it because I had the same thoughts and feelings that my mother had. Up and down, I wasn't myself. And I realized she couldn't help it. And I forgave her, and God forgave me. And he turned me back to my father, because God said that all must be born of the father. Those who are born of the mother must be born again, which is the spirit of the father. Otherwise, you're going to live and die in hell. So I forgave my mother, and when I forgave her, God forgave me, and everything changed.
Wow, that's beautiful story.
Beautiful story.
You got to forgive your mothers so that you can become yourself. You're not yourself. You are your mother, and you're never going to have peace until you become you. You're not your job. You're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. You're not all this other stuff. Those are things you do to escape, but it's not who you are.